I graduated from Purdue University and worked in the private sector as a realtor, a stockbroker, a small business owner, and really didn't grow up as a Republican or a Democrat. My parents always voted, but I don't recall political discussions growing up.
Were
So
there
I grew up as an independent. And it wasn't until, oh, I don't know, had been married maybe 4 or 5 years. And I said to my husband one day, I really like to get involved. And that desire to get involved was inspired by Ronald Reagan, our 40th president, who was such a clear voice in defining the essence of America.
okay?
And Ronald Reagan was so incredibly focused on helping others, but helping ourselves. And so I'm going to stop there because as you can see, I can talk.
Well, you mentioned Ronald Reagan. Was he one of the platforms that opened your mind up and reinforced what you wanted to do? What was it so special about Ronald Reagan? Was there a speech that he gave to you that all of a sudden this light came on in your head and go, this is exactly what I want to do?
Yeah, Ronald Reagan, he was such a beacon for young conservatives, idealistic conservatives. And
Hmm.
he spoke unapologetically about individual responsibility without and he put strong military abroad and fought for American values without making you enemies. But he always reminded us that we must never rest in the fight to protect life and liberty. And I remember the speech when Ronald Reagan said, freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. And we didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. We must fought for and protected and handed on for them to do the same. And looking back, that is what really kind of struck a chord with me. The liberties that we enjoy are fought for and protected and handed on for each generation to do the same. And so I remember that is what kind of was my impetus in getting involved in politics. And I ended up becoming involved in the Republican Party as a result.
Based on what you see right now, what you just said, former President Reagan said about the generations being one motion away from extinction, knowing that that's something that you remember clearly to this day, what have you instilled in your political race as a phrase to people to keep that from happening, the extension from happening?
Well, I talk about, that very quote in many of my speeches. The Ronald Reagan was a great president and one who inspired me. Abraham Lincoln also was a great president and one who
Yes.
inspired me. Of course, he called Indiana home, for the formative years in his life and lived in Spencer County, which is down in my neck of the woods, coming from Vanderburgh County. And so when we gave our swearing in remark weeks ago, quoted Ronald Reagan and mentioned that in his final address in his office as president, he reminded everyone of the accomplishments of the 1980s.
Hmm.
And he said, we did it. We weren't just marking time, we made a difference.
Right.
And that is truly, at the end of the day, we are here for such a short period of time that if we can't make a difference, if we can't lift people up and improve their lives, then why are we here?